Moving on to the Islanders. Oh, yeah, there was another team in New York. The Islanders this week, they did show up to the Garden on Thursday night. I almost had to forget which night it was. Still had Tom Wilson on my brain. But the Islanders got 25 saves from Semyon Varlarmov in his 6th shutout of the season. Leo Komarov, yeah, he actually scored. So there were snowflakes in hell that day. And Anthony Beuvillier had a goal, number 11, and Oliver Wahlstrom had a goal, number 10. You remember Oliver Wahlstrom, Filk? That was the guy that we passed on for Vitaly Kravtsov. Hey, maybe we'll get to see him play sometime. Then 2 days later, the Islanders did it to the Rangers again. So 25 saves out of Varlarmov. I'm surprised he saw 50 shots in that series. They must have all been from the outside because he had about 3 scoring chances. Beuvillier had a pair of goals. Matt Barzal had a goal on an actual goaltender, and it was a pretty nice one. I'll give him credit for that. His 15th of the season. So then the Islanders rode all that momentum from beating their arch rivals to play the Buffalo Sabres and lose to Michael Hauser, an ECHL goalie who got his first NHL win. Pelech and Wahlstrom would add a couple goals, but, I mean, that still just sticks out. And then the Islanders, whatever. One game, you couldn't ride all the momentum from the Rangers. They did it again. They lost in a shootout, but this time, give credit to them. 45 shots on Hauser. And, they had a 3-1 lead. York had a couple goals to tie the game. They lose in shootouts. So at least they got 1 point. Here are the standings on the East Division as they are below. Anthony, we got to go to our resident. What do you think about this week?
Well, I'll start off with the games against the Rangers. The Islanders were coming into those 2 games. They needed to clinch a playoff spot, relax a little bit. I think most people knew the Rangers weren't going to catch them, but at least when the possibility was still alive, it's still there. So they put that to bed. They came out, they dominated the Rangers in all facets of the game, and they got the job done. They got the 4 points. And there's really not much to say. We kind of touched on it briefly. The Rangers didn't come out to play. The Islanders looked like the desperate team, and they took care of business. So I liked the way they looked. They were sound defensively. Their offense woke up a little bit. Varlarmov was sound in goal when he was tested. All was right with the world. Move on to Buffalo, and, well, they lose both games. The most concerning part to me is that, not that Hauser was in goal, it was the fact that in both games they had 2-goal leads. In the first night they were up 2-0. Last night they were up 3-1. And they lost both of them. Very uncharacteristic for the Islanders. And Barry Trotz kind of said it best after the first game. He said the Islanders were emotionally invested in the game. I think the fact they're coming off against the Rangers, they clinched a playoff spot. Honestly, I think they're just kind of looking past everybody now and just waiting for the playoffs to start. They just looked like they weren't motivated to play, and that they didn't care, frankly. And look, that happens sometimes. The end of the season when the teams know they're going to go into the playoffs, you play a team that's like a team like Buffalo that plays spoiler. They're playing loose. They have nothing to lose. They come out and they take teams by surprise. And then when you're not have your maximum effort on top of that, the result is what you saw. The better team can lose the games. Just last night, Boston lost to Jersey in overtime. So this time of year, bad teams, they have nothing to play for. And if these playoff teams are looking past them and just kind of, playing, I'm not going to say playing scared, but playing timid because they don't want to get hurt or, they want to make sure they're intact for the playoffs, it's going to bite you in the ass. And that's what happened. This second game, the Islanders woke up a little bit more because they put 45 shots on goal. So you could tell the effort was there offensively. And give credit to Hauser. He's kind of a good story. A 28-year-old player makes his first 2 starts and gets 2 wins. And especially that second game, he played really well. So hats off to him. I'm not going to make excuses. So the Islanders were there offensively, but defensively, again, they look too soft. It looks like they were playing not to get hurt, and when that happens, you lose the game more so than others when you play that way. So Plus, Islanders rested Pajot in the first game. They rested Barzal in the second game. Martin rested on the fourth line. So I'm not going to panic about it. It happens. But at the same time, I'm still not happy about it because, frankly, regardless of what, their mindset was, you don't want to get into the trap of where, you're playing poorly going into the playoffs because you kind of just going through the motions, because then stuff like that, bad habits can start to develop. So I get where they are mentally, but I would still like to see them finish out this season strong for two reasons. One, because it's better juice going into the playoffs, and two, they could still reach Washington for home ice. They're 3 points behind Washington for second. So that's what I'm looking for. The Islanders got 2 games against the Devils here. They need to win them both and hope that the Rangers can kind of beat the Capitals tonight. So second place isn't out of reach. So that's why it's really important that the Islanders really get their game together now and focus and stop looking past these teams and ahead to the playoffs, because home ice would be nice. If you can't get first or second, at that point, honestly, third or fourth doesn't really matter to me. I know the opponent changes, but not much else really. So if they can't get second, I really don't care if they finish third or fourth, because Pittsburgh or Washington, I think they could beat either team, just as easily they could lose to them. But at the same time, I really don't care who they play, because guess what I'm saying in the first round. So, but I would like them to finish second. So hopefully they can get their game together against the Devils here, and stop and just get back to playing, Barry Trotz playoff style hockey, because he's, again, say for the third time, these non-playoff teams, they have nothing to play for. And if you don't come out strong out of the gate, they don't care. They're not going to feel bad for you. They're going to play their game, and they're going to try to get 2 points. So the Islanders need to wake up here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. And those are 2 points that I was going to make. It's that seeding actually is important. It really is. if you're the Islanders, you want home ice advantage. You want to be the number 1 team. You want to play the worst team at number 4. And you want, like I said, you want ice advantage. And I don't like how in those 2 games they developed some real habits. And you can't lose to Doogie Howser and an emergency room guy full of guys that are AHL and ECHL caliber players. Well, mainly AHL. Really, there's no other ECHL caliber players aside from Hauser. But you cannot lose to that type of team when you need points to get playoff positioning. I've said it all year with the Rangers. They develop bad habits against teams like Buffalo. And lo and behold, what happened? They played Jersey and Buffalo for those stretch of games. They developed some really bad habits in those games. Jersey came back from a 3-goal deficit in one game, and almost came back from a 3-goal deficit in the other. And then they show up to play against the Islanders, and the Islanders absolutely housed them. Pun intended there. But it's not good. You don't want to do that going into the playoffs, like you said. You don't know who you're going to face and how they're going to come at you. And if you're Barry Trotz, the wake-up call needs to be the next game against New Jersey, and it needs to be absolutely ASAP for them, because there's no time to waste. There's no time to waste. I know there's 3 games, and I know essentially it doesn't matter to some, but it does. It really does in the grand scheme of things. And I would believe that Barry Trotz is probably, well, if he had hair, he'd be losing it right now. But yeah, he would. He's going to throw a conniption if they don't show up the next game against New Jersey. He really is, and rightfully so, because this team is in better position than the previous 2 teams that he had taken into the playoffs, and they could do some damage. But you know what? If they're going to play like this heading into it, you could be a first-round knockout. And I don't know if I'd want to play Washington right now, because apparently Tom Wilson can do whatever the hell he wants and not get suspended. Not to go back onto that tangent, but you're looking at that. You're looking at Alexander Ovechkin, who will probably be back. He's probably just resting because they want to rest him. He's getting up there in age, and he's had some injury concerns this year. I mean, you got Nicholas Backstrom. Anthony Mantha has actually played well, after the trade. So I don't know if I'd really want to face them right now. And Mark's Pittsburgh prediction, Pittsburgh is down 2 games in hand to Washington, Mark. So don't give yourself your victory lap yet. And you know what? You could be playing them, and I think they're a better team than people are giving credit for. I don't like their goaltending. I know we've all gone on record as saying that. We don't like their goaltending, but if the team in front of them plays as well as they've been playing, you never know what's going to happen in a series like that in 7 games. And then Boston, ever since Taylor Hall. I mean, if Brandon Carlo is not Brandon Carlo in the playoffs or doesn't play, it might not matter as much, but they're still an improved team. So shake those bad habits now in these last 3 games. Try to get as much points as you can and head into the playoffs on a good note.
I got to say this. They showed that they were going to be a powerhouse in the playoffs, and that the recent offensive struggles weren't a problem against the Rangers. Then they play Buffalo, and now we have to go, wait a minute. So you go from your rival to non-playoff teams, you dominated your opponent, and now I got to question the offense again. I can't, as I'm doing the updates for the Chirons and the tickers. I'm writing down the same names. It's just Anthony Beuvillier, it's Matt Barzal, and it's Oliver Wahlstrom. And hell, Adam Pelech had 2 goals last week. Like, they need to get their scoring going.
Pelech.
They need to get their scoring going, and they need to make sure that they're getting back on the right horse. Because right now, I don't know if they're holding out their energy for the playoffs, but they need to get going again. And you can't just pick it up and stop it, start and stop and start and stop. It doesn't work like that. It worked like that last year when they were 0 for Pajot and then won all the games after having a full training camp with them. So it's what do you think is going to be needed to jumpstart them? And is it just simply putting these 2 games behind them and go out, put the best 2 games in versus Jersey before they face Boston to conclude the season, Anthony?
Yeah, so I think, look, you said it, Mark. They came against the Rangers and they just looked like a powerhouse. I think that proves that it's there. I think that the Islanders at certain times, they, like some other teams do every now and then, they can play down to their opponents, but mostly they've handled the bad team. They have a winning record against all the bad teams, so it's not really so much that. I just think, again, it's just looking ahead to the playoffs and kind of conserving some energy and playing not to get hurt. I really do. I mean, you look at some of the teams over the last couple of years that have went deep in the playoffs, like the Blackhawks and LA. Throughout the course of the year, it's been said that a lot of those teams that know they're going to make the playoffs towards the end of the regular season, they start to pull back because they know the playoffs are going to be a grind and a battle. And I get it, but again, that could lead to bad habits. So the Islanders really need to play their style of hockey against New Jersey and feel good about themselves going into the playoffs. Because again, the last thing you want to do is play loose hockey and then all of a sudden the playoffs start and then you have to ramp back up real quickly. And if you lose game 1, game 2, you can fall behind pretty quickly. So they need to get that out of their game. And yeah, I think Beuvillier going is great. He's a hot and cold guy, and right now he's hot. The playoffs last year in the bubble, he was one of their best forwards. I mean, he killed Florida. He had a really good series against Washington. So the fact that he's scoring again now at this rate is definitely good news for them. That they've reunited that whole line from the bubble, Nelson, Bailey, and Beuvillier. So that's definitely a plus. I know Barzal, once the playoffs get going, he's going to be Barzal. My concern is I would really like to see Palmieri start scoring. The guy's got three points in the games he has since he's been here, so it would be nice if he can get going. That would be really good. On the plus side, Wahlstrom's scoring, so that's a good thing. He's a guy that's going to be very important for them now and going into the future, so that's a plus. But just clean up their game, Mark. Just stop messing around. I know they don't want to get hurt. You may be looking towards, Washington or Pittsburgh, whoever you're going to play in the first round. But focus on the task at hand. Take care of Jersey. Don't sit back and just kind of let them bring it to you. Just play the play the way you would in November as you would right now. You know, play Barry Trotz style hockey. The rest will take care of itself. So, and the goaltending's been good. The defense needs to be better to these last two games. But I think if they just start getting back to the way they played against the Rangers, they'll be good to close out the season. And then see who they got in the first round. Again, hopefully they can get that second spot, but we'll see.
Phil, last word on this.
I mean, everything that I've wanted to say, you guys have pretty much said. You got to have better habits going into the playoffs. I mean, you're right about the scoring. The scoring is coming from a certain group of guys. Anthony's right that Kyle Palmieri needs to be better. We all thought that trade was going to work out really well for them, but it hasn't really, like I said before, had the effect that we thought it was going to have. They do have depth, which is a good thing to have come playoff time. I've preached that about the Rangers, that they needed depth. Even said it earlier on in this broadcast. But you need your guys to start contributing, and I don't like the fact that this team can go in and get so amped up for the New York Rangers. And I know I've said it, they get amped up every time they play the Rangers, and they can come out and just have one really bad stinker of a game and another game that was really subpar for them, because they did shell Hauser with 45 shots in that second one. So, I mean, it's not a good look heading into the playoffs. They got to change everything, and they got to start playing better.
All right. Before I just close out, I want to know from the two of you guys, where is the Islanders' final seed? Where are they going to be come Tuesday morning? What place?
Third.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3. Even though again they can cut Washington for second, they're only 3 behind them. My guess is 3rd.
Which actually I made an error. It should be, I believe, Wednesday morning, because I think after the Bruins play the Islanders, then they get the Capitals. So still 3rd, right, guys?
I say.
I'm gonna say 3rd too.
I
say 3rd too. I don't see them going to 4th. But then again, that's what's funny about this division. You could be the Islanders could be the division winner or last place. Well, out of the 4, obviously. All right. But what do you think about how the Islanders have looked?
Technically, right now they could. But yeah, you're right, Mark. They technically finish in any of those spots. So
yeah, just the math is showing it. I mean, the Bruins can win this division right now. That's how tight this is. Yeah, and they all got cupcakes on their schedule, because after all, the Bruins are playing the Rangers, which look like world beaters right now. So anyway, back to your thoughts. We want to know what you think. How'd the Islanders do this week? Are the games against the Rangers more indicative of what you're going to be seeing in the playoffs? Or are they going to let you down like the 2 games against the Sabres or that last Star Wars movie? So it could just be a disaster just like that. All right. Did you like that video? Of course you did. So why not check out some more of our content? You can check the playlist right here or right here.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.